welcome to our presentation for a business analysis of Knight-Swift Transportation. First, let me take you through our team. We are Team 6. My name is Sebastian Beltran. Other team members include Jake Salinas, Jackson Giddens, Connor Shriver, Adam Brainerd, and Julian Calderon. For our agenda and objectives today, first, I'll take you through our revised mission and vision statements. Second, Jackson will take you through the SWOT analysis. Third, Connor will go over the near and long-term strategies. Fourth, I'll come back and go over the financial forecast with and without our recommendations. And finally, Jake will go through a brief summary. 1. In our process of revising the current mission statement, we understand there are 3 important factors that are included in effective mission statements. Those 3 things are who we are as an organization, what we do, and who we serve. So we have come up with a mission statement. Read something like this. Here at Knight-Swift, our mission is to create opportunities within the transportation industry, to provide and serve our customers, suppliers, and associates through effective, meaningful, and sustainable practices. We recognize there are 3 important factors to include in order to create an effective vision statement. These 3 factors are what goals you want to accomplish, when you want to accomplish these goals, and how you're going to measure them. So to summarize our new revised vision statement, Knight-Swift should improve various measurable goals by 2028 to both scale and improve efficiency and position itself as a leader in these categories. Some of these measurable goals include improving the leverage ratio, improving driver times, and improving driver benefits.
Hello everyone, my name is Jackson Giddens, and today I'm going to be taking you through the SWOT analysis that my team put together. Starting off, we found that Knight-Swift has a large asset base containing over 19,000 tractors, 58,000 trailers, 24,000 employees, all spanning over 25 terminals with 18 shops. These terminals and shops are really important because they allow Knight-Swift to create in-house maintenance and reduce costs. We have industry diversification. Knight-Swift has really done a great job of acquiring different companies in all of the FTL, LTL, intermodal, and supply chain spaces. And Knight-Swift also has a great industry reputation as a very reliable and dependable transportation service with over 90 years of combined experience between Knight Transportation and Swift Transportation. Going on to some weaknesses we found within Knight-Swift. First of all, we found driver retention to be an issue. We also found some employee concerns and criticisms on sites like Glassdoor. One of the main concerns we found was scheduling for drivers and their at-home time not being adequate in their opinion. We also found that Knight-Swift has a large amount of debt stemming mainly from these acquisitions. Currently, their total liabilities sit around $5.76 billion. Their total long-term debt is around $1.69 billion, which is a 20.19% increase from 2022 to 2023. Next, moving on to some opportunities within the transportation industry, we have telematics, electric vehicles, and autonomous vehicles. With telematics, you really get a lot more metrics and data that managers can use to actually increase the efficiency and improve fuel costs as well as fleet safety. With electric vehicles, you get lower fuel costs and lower maintenance costs, as many of the maintenance items on a traditional combustion engine are not there in an electric car. And with autonomous vehicles, you get an easier workload for the driver, as well as increased safety for the fleet. Next, moving on to some threats, we found that fuel price fluctuations are a big problem for Knight-Swift, as fuel pricing is never really stable and shortages can occur with global events. We also found the driver shortage and aging workforce to be an issue, with the average age of a professional truck driver being 47, with over 72% of the professional trucking industry being over the age of 40.
Hi, my name is Connor, and today I'll be talking about the strategies that we've put together for Knight-Swift. Our first near-term strategy is to increase driver benefits, and for that we've put together an 8-month plan. In months 1 to 3, we'll be doing a comprehensive compensation analysis, which is looking into the average pay in the United States across the trucking sector as well as our competitors, and gauging what we're currently paying and if we can bridge a gap or if there even is a gap. For months 4 to 6, we'll be gathering driver feedback, questioning and polling our own drivers, seeing what they want us to give them and just kind of where their mind's at, because in recent studies they've shown that only 51% of truckers are happy with their job, and that's a large number of truckers that are unhappy when the number 1 complaint is their pay. Moving on to that, in months 7 and 8 is when we will roll out and implement our new pay scale and our bonus structure, which will reward both newer drivers for their efficiency and load deliveries, as well as older drivers for their years of service. The impact this has is financial, as it will decrease the rate of turnover, which turnover is very expensive. 91% of truckers have a turnover within a year. And operational is improvement in driver morale and an increase in the company's culture. And with our second near-term strategy, we have streamlining maintenance with AI and just bolstering our operations with tech and the latest advancements. We've broken this down into 3 phases. Our first phase is utilizing AI for predictive measures, sort of a plug-and-play diagnostics with our systems to see what parts are failing or breaking down and kind of catch those truck breakdowns before they happen. Phase 2 is utilizing machine learning for efficient operations. This is going to be put into our route enhancing, so we can enhance our routes and make sure we're navigating through less condensed areas to minimize accidents there and just make sure we're on the most efficient plan. Our phase 3 will be utilizing blockchain to track and verify shipments. This will allow us to put our loads on the blockchain, which is an immutable ledger that nobody can alter and everybody can see. So we can verify the load at all times of shipment, so if a problem does arise, there's no arguing or pointing fingers at who's responsible because everything is right there in front of you. The impact for this is a financial cost reduction in labor and maintenance. As we are repairing these trucks before the major breakdowns, we're hoping they last a little bit longer. And for operational, is an improvement in fleet uptime. If we're catching those problems before they get serious, then the trucks aren't going to be down and we have them running longer. And our first long-term solution is acquisition of Waymo or an autonomous company like Waymo. This is set into a multi-year plan, and in the first year we'll be doing our due diligence on Waymo's assets. This includes things like their IPs related to their software and code, as well as their financial outlook and how healthy they are financially. Moving on into year 2 is our tech development phase, where we'll be collaborating with their engineers, making sure their tech is adaptable to a semi-truck, as they are currently the largest autonomous passenger vehicle company. They haven't branched into semis yet, and we need to make sure that that code doesn't have a fall off when it does, as they are set to capture about 60% of the autonomous vehicle market by 2030, with revenues expected to be around $2.8 billion. Moving on into year 3 is when we will deploy and scale. This will be testing a small fleet of vehicles in Phoenix, Arizona, which is the home of both Waymo and Knight-Swift, so it's right there in the heart, and we can keep a pulse on anything in case anything goes wrong. It's right there in Phoenix, and then we'll expand into the southwestern area and then eventually across the whole United States. The impact for this financially is a decrease in accident-related costs. If your autonomous vehicles have an 85% less likely chance to be in an accident, you're not repairing your vehicles as often because they're not going to be getting in as many accidents. Operational is improvement of our safety metrics and just being safer overall as a company. 10% of all fatal car accidents occur with a semi-truck, so if we can do our part to cut down on that, that's all the better. Moving on into our second long-term strategy, we have combating the looming driver shortage that's plaguing the industry right now. This is a stretched out multi-year plan to recruit new, non-traditional candidates into the trucking profession, which in year 1 we'll start expanding our search to groups like women and younger people, as the average age of truckers is a little bit older. In year 2, we're going to rework our training and onboarding, as studies show that newer employees with less than 2 years on the job are far less happy than older employees with 8 or more years of experience. So just adding in a little bit of help and support for them at the beginning to make sure they're getting their career set off on the right foot. And in this, we'll expand our high school program a little bit more, which we're looking at doing something like a military recruitment in local high schools, where we can ingrain in the children that they can see this as a career path in addition to some of the other options. As in recent years, only 9% of high schoolers polled have shown an interest in military service. That's a large untapped community of kids that would traditionally avoid college and aren't going to the military, so this is a good in-between for them to make a career out of. And our year 3 is to create partnerships with specific technical schools to create a pipeline of people that are graduating already ready to be truckers and trained on all there is to need to know about trucking in. The impact for this is financially a reduction in turnover costs, and operationally an increase in driver satisfaction and driver diversity.
For this next segment, we're going to go over some of the financial forecasts. Our first step in developing a baseline forecast included analyzing 4 different competitors within the trucking industry, as well as Knight-Swift. We took all this information from the past 5 to 6 years and created an average annual increase or decrease. After the analysis of those 4 competitors along with Knight-Swift and got an average industry rate, we then compiled that into this sheet right here. As you'll see, we have average increases or decreases for across the industry. After 2020, these 2 years, 21 and 22 in particular, have very large spikes across the board. Utilizing those averages of the industry, our methodology for our baseline forecast to produce actual dollar amounts was to generally across the board run a 60 to 40 weighted ratio. So 60% is weighted in favor of just the history of Knight-Swift's financials. 40% is weighted just from the industry. So combining those two together and looking at each year individually, we'll see that there is average increases across the board, more normal than those post-COVID years you saw. Starting higher here early on, post-COVID, it dwindles down as we get later down the line within this forecast. A simplified piece of that baseline forecast is here we're evaluating revenues and expenses. And you'll see that we're estimating that revenues are below the amount of expenses in 25 and 26. And so that is something that we have in mind when it comes to our recommendations. Firstly, we have our salaries expense. We want to address this with our first recommendation. As we mentioned earlier in our SWOT analysis, that drivers tend to not be very satisfied or feel that they are well compensated for the work that they are doing. So to address this and distinguish Knight-Swift as a pioneer, that Knight-Swift increases driver salaries by 19.5% in 2024. What's likely to happen is a large reduction in turnover. As we know, acquiring new drivers is far more expensive long term than it is to get qualified, experienced drivers now and hold on to them down the road. And you'll see over time there is a decrease of the salaries expense after 5 years of 0.87%. And for our next recommendation, we're going to be addressing the insurance expense. Now, although the insurance expense didn't have necessarily high fluctuations year to year, when we looked at the average industry rates, the insurance expense is just a relatively higher dollar amount than some of the other expenses. How do we address this? By selecting an insurance with higher premiums to get lower monthly payments. So we believe that this recommendation here can be an effective way to bring down that large expense of insurance. Our third and final recommendation for Knight-Swift has to do with addressing the other expense. The reason we are selecting the other expense to address is because of 3 important term loans coming due within our forecast. We are suggesting that Knight-Swift enter into interest rate swap agreements to be able to manage interest rate exposure from these loans. We saw within our research that specifically Werner Transportation has seen great management of their interest rates through interest rate swap agreements. Adopting similar interest rates, we have created a forecast with this recommendation, and you'll see in the top right, there is a 16.72% reduction overall utilizing this swap agreement recommendation. And to conclude this financial segment, you'll see in this top here, we're coming back to the baseline forecast, where revenues is below expenses during these 2 years, and it is awfully close in 2024, and you won't see a good margin until 2027. However, if you look on the right, our forecast with recommendations as a direct comparison, you'll see the opposite happen. We'll move on to the net profit margin over time expressed as a percentage. You'll see here that our recommendation has a higher net profit margin over time all the way through. And then lastly, this is operating income over time expressed in US dollars. You'll see again, our recommendations have a higher operating income over time across the board.
In conclusion, we believe that KNX can be the largest and most efficient trucking company in North America. That could be possible through the strengths of having a large asset base in their current acquisitions, in addition to the diversification that they have in LTD, FTL, and intermodal. We not only want to enhance their customer experience, but we want to make it a place where their employees love to work. and we want to be alongside them when that happens. Thank you for reviewing this video, and you have a great day.